G'day, Josh here with a Call of Duty mobile video. But before we jump into today's video, I do want to give a massive shout out to the community, to everyone that watches my videos, and especially those that have subscribed. We have reached 10,000 subscribers, which is fantastic. And it's just a sign that the community is continuing to grow in the right direction. And I cannot wait for the channel to continue to grow. So if you do like my videos and you haven't already hit sub, please do so. It definitely helps me out. Now, this video is going to be all about optimizing your iPad or your iPhone. I personally am using an iPad now that I've got one, a recent upgrade, I should say, to the content creation setup. But everything I'm talking about will also transfer over to iPhone or Android or whatever device phone users as well as tablet users. There are probably like 3 maybe subtle differences, but I'll talk about those when I get to each of those as well. So obviously we're going to be looking at the 4-finger claw setup, which you can see on my board here or on my screen here. But before we get into that, I do actually want to talk about some of the settings that you will need to enable as well. So we're going to start off in sensitivity. In my opinion, to optimize your performance and learn movements and finger drag speeds and distances and all those sorts of things, you should absolutely be using fixed speed rotation mode. I think it defaults to speed acceleration. Fixed speed means it's a standard, consistent, no matter how fast or slow you move, it's always based on how far you move your finger as to how quickly you turn, which means you can really dial in that muscle memory for like sliding through a door and checking corners left and right. You'll always have it nailed every single time. I would also make sure that sensitivity switch is enabled switch while opening ADS. That is the trigger between your running around sensitivity and your scoped in sensitivity. So you want that triggering as quickly as possible. Now, the sensitivity standards or the sensitivity settings that I use is going to be different for everyone, and it's mainly to do with your device. Also then to do with your playstyle and how much exact movement control or fidelity that you want. But this is the first difference between phone and tablet. I had it a little bit lower on phone, a little bit higher on tablet because it is a bigger screen. Now, the main thing that I use to measure my standard sensitivity is I want to be able to, with my right thumb, my thumb that looks around, I want to be able to do a long drag without having to take it off the screen and be able to do a full 360. So my outer limit is a full 360 with a full drag movement across the screen, and that for me on this tablet is 150, and then I dial everything else into that based around that. A lot of that does come down to experimentation. There's no perfect solution here. It's just a little bit of what feels comfortable for you. I do like my sensitivities on the higher sides. With that being said, I've definitely seen people that have way higher sniper scope sensitivity, for instance. And I personally mirror my firing and my camera sensitivities, and then I do not use a gyroscope, so I don't worry about those. The next thing you want to do is jump into basic. There's a couple of things you want to make sure that you are doing here. So I personally enable joystick auto sprint because I like being able to lock that sprint button, although it does take place for me a lot more in Battle Royale than it does in multiplayer, but it's nice having it as an option. I also disable this one here, the hide prone button. And this is another one that I actually had disabled on a phone just because I didn't have the screen real estate, but now that I'm on a tablet, I do actually turn the prone specific button on. You can of course prone by holding down the crouch button, but a prone specific button just means you can drop shot a little bit quicker and a little bit easier if you have a big enough screen to do it. So that's a consideration. If you're playing on a smaller device, you don't have the screen real estate, maybe you hide that. If you've got the room, absolutely add it, and I'll show you where I've got that as well. You definitely want ADS on tap, at tap and hold to ADS. That's a big one. And then display left fire button, that's important for quick scoping. And then the sprint sensitivity I've got reasonably high, so it doesn't take too much of a movement with my left thumbstick to start sprinting, but you still do have enough fine control there that you can walk when you need to be quiet. And of course I've got that gyroscope turned off. Now the camera field of view, this is a one other thing. I talked about 3 things that might be different between tablet and phone. This is a one other thing that might be different. If you increase the field of view, if you max it out to 75, you see more stuff. You see, it's like a fisheye lens or a wide angle lens on a camera. You're seeing more left and more right, but the stuff in front of you will be slightly smaller. Now, on a tablet, that's a perfect trade-off because it's a big enough screen that having stuff directly in front of you a bit smaller isn't a big deal. On a phone, depending on your phone screen size, 75 might be too much. The targets you're aiming at might just be a little bit too small. So experiment with that, jump into a bot match or whatever and test what it's like to aim at an enemy at various distances, and maybe you'll find that 70 or 65 is better suited on your particular device. But if you have a big enough screen, I do recommend maxing that out because it does let you see more at once. And then finally, before we do jump into the custom layout, you also want to go through and make sure, I personally have all of these set to hip fire except for sniper rifles, and that's so I can quick scope. But it means that all of the other options, all of my other gun types, I will have to hold a dedicated ADS button, but I can also hip fire if I'm not holding that, which is perfect. Having sniper rifles ADS when using the left fire button means that you can basically never hip fire with a sniper rifle, but it's very, very efficient for quick scoping. And if, out of curiosity, if you do want to see a quick scoping specific video where I go into more detail talking about how to be super proficient and optimize your quick scoping setup, leave a comment down below. And if I see enough of those, I will make a dedicated quick scoping video. Now let's jump into the actual button layout. I can turn that off. You can see map top right. That's pretty nice. You want to be able to see that. And then all of your like emotes and settings and voice chats and those sorts of things are up in that area as well. Although my settings specific button is in the dead center of the screen. And that is once again to do with quick scoping, although it is kind of a little bit useful when shotgunning as well, but it's mainly to do with as soon as you start that ADS animation with a sniper rifle, you lose the dot in the middle of the screen and you don't have anything there until your sights have fully come up on the screen. So that gives you a really useful visual guide as to help line up a headshot when you're in the middle of that ADS animation. So it's very, very useful for quick scoping. Now, bottom left is pretty standard. Bottom left, I've got my movement thumbstick. There's the that's how far I have to slide up my thumb to lock that sprint. Then I've also got my dedicated prone button there. It's good to have that on your movement stick because when you are going down into a prone position, you've essentially stopped moving, but you might still be shooting, you might still be ADSing, and you might still be aiming. So your other three corners of the screen are doing something. This left thumb is not doing anything, so that's the one you want to be using to prone when you stop moving. And then top left, I actually hide. You can see the red fire button is turned off. That's the right fire button. I just use the left fire button, and it's the one that enables you to ADS and quick shot and quick scope with sniper rifles. And I have that massive, really, really big. There is nothing else up in that part of the screen other than the scoreboard, but that's too far up for me to hit. And then likewise, the top right, I've got my ADS button, and then just next to those, I've got jump, crouch, and or prone or slide, depending on what's happening. And then also the reload button, as well as the operator / skill button. And then I also have the knife button right where my right thumb is looking around the screen. So it's a really quick knife reaction if I need to do that. Some people prefer not to do that though, and that is totally fine. And then obviously down the bottom, I've got a pretty standard gun switching throwable setup down there as well. Although I did move that slightly up and to the left so that I wouldn't ever accidentally click it while just aiming around the screen. That is my optimized tablet, but it was also very, very similar on my phone. I will talk about one thing that I did have different on my phone just because it was a little bit hard to see the map in the top right when my fingers are coming down over the top of the screen because the phone is a smaller device. So I actually moved the map down and I had these two buttons above the map, and I would actually operate these two buttons with my thumb as opposed to my pointer. But it is better to be able to do all of them with your pointer so you never have to take your thumb off and you can always be accurately aiming, in my opinion, but it will come down to your exact screen size as well. So that is my optimized setup. I've done lots of experimenting with this. I've been playing Call of Duty Mobile ever since the Australian beta, so a long time, way back in 2019. I've been playing on a phone and now a tablet, and I'm always optimizing. In my opinion, you never get to the perfect setup. Couple of reasons. One, you continue to get better at the game and so you can make further optimizations. And two, every now and again, Call of Duty will bring out something new like a dedicated prone button, which you can add to your setup. So sensitivities, you can always dial in even more. So it's never just a snap, click of the fingers, and that's perfect. As you grow, your setup can evolve with you to get better and better, but that's what mine is at right now. Let me know what you think of that in the comments down below, and any significant differences that you have compared to what I'm doing, and anything you think I might have missed. Thank you so much for checking out this video. I really appreciate all the support I get from the community. Make sure to give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out on any of my future content. And until next time, I'll see you later.